Hi, okay, in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this twist and pop card. I don't know if you can see it. Now I'm going to show you how to assemble it, and I'm also going to show you in Canvas how to make the mechanism for it. But I just want to point out that when I made this first one, when I made the mechanism, which I'll explain when I get to in the video, I used a dash line that was quite big, and I don't know if you'll be able to see in here, but it's ripped slightly inside when I was putting the card together. So in this one I'm going to assemble today, I've made the dash line the smallest dash line. I'm not even sure whether you're going to be able to see it on camera or not. So I'm going to explain what you need, and I'm going to show you in Canvas how to make it. So I'm just going to put that one on one side. I made this to fit inside what we call an A6 card in the UK, which is basically a piece of A4 cut in half. Now it's either A4 cut in half lengthways or A4 cut in half that way. It doesn't matter which, we call it an A6. I think in the US you call it an A2. Our A4 card is also a slightly different size to your 8.5 by 11. You have 8.5 by 11. We have, I think it's 8 1/8 by 11 5/8, something like that. But your mechanism should fit in either whichever A4 you use, hopefully. So this was a piece of A4 card, as you can see here, cut in half lengthways. So from one piece of A4 you can get two cards. Your mechanism is a piece of 3 by 10. So again, you should be able to get two of these from an A4 piece of card. And then your panels, your folded piece for your panel, needs to be 3 by the length of your A4 card. So I hope that makes sense. So you've got a piece of A4 cut in half lengthways, a piece of 3 inches by A4, and then your mechanism, which is 3 by 10. These are the matting layers. You don't have to use these. These are for inside the card. Now, if you look at this one on the original, I explained when I was in Canvas that I made these panels too small. These are the bigger panels, which will fit in here, hopefully like this, and give you a bigger matting area. And then for the patterned and card that I've used on the panels, I just cut some squares. Again, you could get your ScanNCut to cut them if you want, but I just cut them with a trimmer. And for my measurements, these are 2 5/8 by 2 6/8. Now, I'll just try and bring my measure in. If you're not sure about the eighths, I'll try and bring this in and show you. If you look at the 1 inch mark here on the ruler, there are 8 marks before you get to 2. So each one of these marks is an eighth. So if I line this up with my cutting guide, I'm trying to do this so that you can see it and I can see it as well. But if I line that up with the groove on the cutting guide, you'll see that this is at the 5/8. So there's the 2, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5/8. And then if I turn it round this way again and line it up, this one's at the 6/8. So the 8th marks, check your ruler, but if you've got 8 marks between each inch, then they're your 8th marks. Some have other ones as well, smaller ones, which will be 16ths. So that's just if you're not sure what the 8ths are. So let's see if we can assemble this and see how we go on, if it's any better. So I'm going to put the card and the A4 length of 3 inch just to one side for a minute and work on the mechanism. So here's your mechanism that we made. I don't know if you can see the dash lines on it. I'm just going to get a bone folder. I'm going to fold it down the middle and just burnish it lightly. And then I'm going to fold on the diagonals on a valley fold, which means towards me. So I'm going to fold this way, and I'm only lightly creasing these. I'm not going to use the bone folder on this. As I say, I used a smaller dash line, so I'm going to see how the mechanism works with the smaller dash line. So now you've got that. So you should now be able, in fact you might need to just fold it on the horizontal the opposite way again, so you've got a valley as well. You should be able now to manipulate these sides by pushing them in and making this kind of shape. So you've kind of got like a house shape, and that's your basic mechanism, but there's a trick in putting it in the card and making sure your panels all fit. So that's the first one. So now I'm going to apply glue on this shape here, front and back, but I'm only going to do one at a time. I'm going to bring my card in. I'm going to position this inside so that it sits roughly centrally to the middle of the card. You don't want this point touching the fold. You want it ever so slightly underneath, probably about 1/8, like I've just shown you, inside, so that your card will fold, because you don't want all this bulk here of all these folds to be on that fold line. So I'm going to use wet glue. I find it holds better. You want a strong adhesive, either something like the red double-sided tape, or if you've got Stampin' Up! Fast Fuse, or a wet glue. I wouldn't use normal glue from a tape runner on this. You want something quite strong. So I'm just applying glue. I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to position it under the fold, and I'm going to by eye try and position it centrally without getting my head in the camera, and then just hold it down while it grabs for a few minutes. Give it a little bit of a light burnish. And this is Tombow liquid glue, and this is really good, and it has a really good grab. So that's got that one. So now I'm going to open it up, apply glue on this top bit, and then fold the card down again and just give it a light burnish. Just watch you don't get any wet glue on your hand, and then you transfer it to your card. So that's that. So now I'm going to put that on one side just for a minute to grab, and then we'll come back to that in a minute, and I'm going to show you how to assemble the panels and things. Now this is your 3x A4, and I just found the easiest way to do this is just fold it in half, crease it in the middle, and then use a bone folder. So there's your fold on the right hand side, and these are your open edges. You're now going to fold this one back to the edge. Again, crease it lightly and fold, and then turn it over and fold this one back. You're basically just dividing up your length of A4 into 4 panels, and you need to give this a good old crease. And the way you want it is in the shape of a W, not an M like that. You want a valley, a mountain, and a valley. Okay. Now again, just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to put the matting layers on, and just because these matting layers are ever so slightly different in width and height, make sure if you do use them that you get them on the right way around. If you don't, you'll see that you've got narrow edges and wider gaps at the top. You want a kind of an equal distance all the way around. You don't even have to do this if you don't want. I'm just showing you how I did mine. So again, a bit of glue, and I'm just going to apply these by eye centrally onto each panel. So they're my panels now, and that's my W shape. So again, I'm just going to burnish it down just so that they've all stuck. Now, before I put this inside the card, I'm going to put these matting layers in. And again, I'm just going to glue them in and position them centrally. Hopefully you can see. Bit to show you, but that's how the card will open up, and there your matting layers. Now this is the tricky bit, putting this inside the mechanism, and the best way I saw was on somebody's video, and this is how I found it easiest to do. So effectively your panel is going to go across your card like so, but the easiest way to do this is to have your W and turn it so your open edges are here, and then you're going to position this about 1/4 of an inch down from the top and centrally on either side, and then you're going to bring this panel up and you want to line this edge with this edge, and if you put it into place like so, you can see roughly where it is, and it's not going to be easy to show this, but on the mechanism you want to apply glue only on this section here for the amount of this depth, if that makes sense. So you don't want to put glue all the way down, else you'll stick your mechanism to your card. So you could mark it with a pencil. I'm just going to put my thumb as a guide so that I know not to go past here with my glue. So I'm going to put glue here, but not past here. So again, I'm just going to apply some glue, not all the way down to the bottom, because this isn't as wide as that. So again, that's how your card is going to open. You want to turn it so it's upright, so you've got your 2 open ends at the top. Position this centrally within your card, like so, about 1/4 of an inch from the top, and then with your glue on here, just coming no further than here and only about 2/3 of the way down, close this up, and you want this outer edge to line up with this panel. So I'm just going to have to put it down and put it in place and burnish it. Now, I've probably made that look harder than it is, but it's just the easiest way I found to make this work. So when you open now, you've got the makings already of the card. Okay, sorry, I'll open it out and hopefully make it easier to understand again. So for your panel, you put in, on your mechanism, on the right hand side, you put in glue on the top section, and on the left hand side, you're putting it on the bottom. So again, you're going to come about the length of your card in here and about 2/3 down. It's the trickiest thing to try and assemble, but once you've done it once, it's easy. It's just doing it the first time. So what you're going to do now, you're going to fold your panel back up, and where you've got your panel stuck on the front here, you're going to stick it on the back here. So you're going to kind of move your card in that way. Might be easy to just show you, try and put it down. So I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to line up these edges again. Just going to press it down from the inside, just put my glue back on, the lid back on my glue. Right, so now there's the card. So when we open it up, it flips. Now this one, because I did the score lines with a smaller dash line, this one's not ripped in the middle. So this one's better. So you close it up and open it. Close it and open it. Okay, so just to recap, I'll try and show you from the inside. On your mechanism, on the right hand side, you put the glue on the top section of the mechanism. So here, and on the left hand side you put your glue on the bottom. Yeah, so you do opposites. If you stick yours to the top left, then put it top right. Your glue on your mechanism has got to be in the opposite corners. I know I probably made that look a hell of a lot difficult than it really is, but if you do it like that, and if you put instead of trying to open it up and stick it on with your panel going horizontally, if you turn your panel so your open sections are this way, it goes on a lot easier. And look how easy that works. So I hope you found that helpful. Please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And as I say, I'm going into Canvas and I'll show you how to make all the mechanism. Hi, so I'm in ScanNCut Canvas and I've got a new blank project open, and I'm going to show you how to make the mechanism for your twist and pop card. So the easiest way I found to do it is the way I'm going to show you. Once you've seen it, you may be able to work an alternative method out to suit you. So the basic mechanism needs to be 3 inches high by 10 inches wide. So I'm going to start off with a basic shape. I'm going to choose a rectangle. I'm going to come into the properties box and I'm going to untick the maintain aspect ratio because I want to size the height and the width independently. So I'm going to type 3 and hit return, and then I'm going to come over to the width and I'm going to type 10 and hit return on my keyboard, and that gives me the rectangle that's now 10 inches by 3. Now we need to put 2 score lines on here, and because we've not got the facility in ScanNCut Canvas to set lines at certain distances apart, this is how I came up with working the measurements out for my mechanism. So while this box is selected, I'm going to right click and hit duplicate, and I want to now make a square that's 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So I'm going to come back to the properties box. I'm going to type in here 3.5 and hit enter, and then I'm going to type in here 3.5. So now I've got a square. And while I've got this square highlighted, I'm just going to make it red in the hope that you'll be able to see it better on screen. You don't need to do this. It's just a visual aid for me and hopefully for you. And then while I remember, I'm going to come back to this rectangle and just assign it a straight cut line. So I'm going to choose cut line and make sure it's just a straight line. Now I'm going to select this square and right click and hit duplicate because I want 2. I'm just going to bring this square up over the rectangle and select both those 2 shapes only. I'm going to go to edit, align left and edit align center, and while they're both selected I'm going to right click and make them a group. Now I'm going to bring this box up and select everything and go to edit center and edit right. Now this time I've just aligned the red box to the right hand edge. So just to recap, with the first box I centered it to the rectangle and lined it up to the left hand edge and then made those 2 a group, and then with the other box I've centered it and aligned it to the right. I found if you don't make the first box and the rectangle a group and you try to put one to the left and one to the right, they move around. These are just visual aids. We're not going to cut these. It's just so you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to select everything and group. and that way they all move as a group. So now I'm just going to zoom in just on this middle section, because it's this section that we're going to work with. So we're going to come to the path icon and select it, and we're going to draw diagonal lines here just between where the edge of the red box touches the rectangle. So I'm going to left click once, drag my line out, drag it to here, double click to anchor it. While it's selected, I'm going to come to cut and I'm going to choose a dash line. Now this time I'm going to choose a small dash line. On the first one I've just shown you, I used one of the bigger ones and it has actually ripped a little bit as I was putting the panels on. So I'm going to try a smaller dash line and see if this works better. So I'm going to close that down, then I'm going to come back to the path icon and I'm going to do the same here. So I'm going to left click here, drag my line out, double click to anchor it. While it's selected, make it a cut line and choose the small dash line. Okay, now I'm just going to select the rectangle because that's got the rectangle and the two boxes now together, and I'm going to right click and ungroup, and I'm going to get rid of the red boxes. So I'm going to select that one and I'm going to select that one. Now this time I'm going to make these a group now. Right click and group. So what I'm going to do now is put my middle fold line in. So I'm going to come back to the path icon. I'm just going to click somewhere near the middle. It doesn't matter exactly where because we're going to center it in the middle. I'm going to right click, I'm going to hold my shift key down and drag my mouse out, which gives me a perfectly straight line. Double click to anchor it. While it's selected, make it a cut line and then choose that small dash line again. Now I'm going to select everything and I'm going to come to edit and center, and that puts this dash line I've just made directly in the center of this rectangle. I'm going to select everything, right click and make it a group and come back to fit to mat. And that is the mechanism for the card. Now the reason that I use the boxes is that from the videos that I watched, people seem to start off with similar sized pieces of card and put the score lines in similar places. But the one that I found the most consistent was when you started off with a piece of card that was 3 inches high by 10 inches wide, and then they scored at 3.5 and 6.5, or 3.5 from this end and 3.5 from this end, which effectively is 3.5 and 6.5. So the easiest way I found it, the most accurate way, was to make my boxes 3.5 inches wide and position them on either edge, and that way that gave me the place to put the diagonal fold lines. So I hope that makes sense. So that's your mechanism. Now obviously you want your folding pieces and you want your card pieces, but I've explained about those at the beginning of the video. Now the other thing that I did, in the first example, I made some matting layers to go inside my card that followed this kind of flag shape, but I made them too small. So in the ones I've just shown you, I made them bigger, and this is how I did it. So basically I went and got another rectangle. UK A4 card is a smidge over 8 inches wide and it's a smidge over 11.5 inches long. So to give me the correct angle for my matting layer for inside of my card, this is how I did it. So I've got a rectangle and I'm going to resize it to 4 inches by 11.5. And then again, I'm just going to make it a different colour just so it's easier to see on the screen, hopefully. And I'm going to position this over the mechanism, select both and go edit centre and edit middle. and hopefully you can see them. Now I'm just going to zoom in on half the card because it's only really half that I need to work on. So what I did here now, I went to the path icon and I used this angle as my guide. So I clicked once here and I dragged a line out and then clicked. Then I held the shift key down to give me a straight line and dragged out and clicked, and then down and click, and then in, and then I went back up to here and double click to anchor it. Now I'm just going to change it so it's a different colour for you to see. I'm going to make it pink. And then with it selected, I double clicked to expose the nodes, and then I was able to adjust the nodes to give me a bit more of an even matting layer. Now I look as though I've got double nodes here. Well, now I've exposed the node, you can see it says curve, so I'm going to click and choose straight, and hopefully, in fact I'm going to have to do the same on here. So with this line selected, I'm going to choose straight. That gives me a straight line and one node. So now I'm able to drag this line I'm trying to get an equal gap here to an equal gap there. So again, I'm just going to click on a line. Now again, it says curve, so I'm going to make it a straight line. So I've only got one node. I'm going to bring this down into the middle, so it's dead in the middle of that dash line. And I'm just going to drag this down a little bit. Again, I've got a curved line. So with this line selected, I'm going to go straight. That just gives me a straight line just with one node. And this is how I did it really. I just selected the nodes and dragged them in until I looked as though I'd got kind of an equal distance around here. And once I was happy with that, I'm just going to zoom back out. This is the matting layer. I right click and duplicate, and then I flip this one horizontally. Edit, flip horizontally. If you are using directional paper as your matting layers, if you flip them, they'll hopefully be in the right orientation when you come to layer them up. Now I chose the orange box and I just got rid of it. And that was how I made the mechanism and the matting layers. Then I just gave it a name up here. I'll just call it test for now because I've already got one. Saved it, which is this icon here, and then I was able to download it and put it on the machine and cut it. So I hope you found that helpful. Please give the video a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Make sure the bell notification icon's turned on within YouTube, and that way you'll get notifications when I post videos like this and when I also post live streams. So have fun, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.